At 2:13 a.m. on a Tuesday, I found a boutique hotel receipt in my husband's jacket pocket for a room overlooking Piedmont Park. At 2:17, while I was still staring at the total with my hands shaking over the kitchen counter, our bank app sent a notification that $38,000 had been transferred out of our savings account. The affair should have been the worst part. It was not even close. Jason walked into the kitchen 4 minutes later wearing sweatpants and that exhausted provider expression he used whenever he wanted sympathy before questions. I held up the receipt first because I still thought that was the emergency. "Tell me why you were at the Crescent Hotel last Thursday." He froze for less than a second. Tiny pause. Tiny calculation. Then he sighed and sat heavily at the kitchen island like a man finally surrendering to guilt. "Renee," he said quietly, rubbing both hands over his face, "it meant nothing." That sentence rearranged the room instantly. 20 years of marriage stories train women to think cheating is the earthquake. I almost missed the second disaster entirely because I was still emotionally staring at the first one. "Who is she?" I asked. Jason looked down at the marble countertop instead of at me. "Her name is Sophia." Not denial. Not confusion. Immediate confession. That should have shocked me more than it did. But Jason was acting strange about something else. His eyes kept flicking toward my phone beside the sink where the bank notification still glowed across the screen. He looked more afraid of the transfer than the affair. I noticed because fear changes his posture. During arguments, Jason usually leaned forward, calmer than everyone else in the room. Now he stayed stiff and angled toward the hallway like he might leave before the conversation finished. "What is this transfer?" I asked, turning the phone toward him. His face changed instantly. Not guilt. Panic. "That was business," he said too quickly. "Construction payment issue. I was fixing something overnight." $38,000? Temporary. He stood abruptly and reached for the phone, but I pulled it closer first. The movement was small. Still, something cold moved through me when he stopped trying to grab it. Jason never stopped trying unless he already knew the damage was done. Outside, rain hit the kitchen windows hard enough to blur the backyard lights. The clock above the stove read 2:21 a.m. I remember the exact time because that was the moment the affair stopped feeling emotional and started feeling dangerous. Jason began pacing slowly between the kitchen island and dining room, talking too much now. Explaining supply chain delays. Vendor emergencies. Payroll timing. Long complicated sentences meant to exhaust questions instead of answer them. I had listened to that voice for almost 12 years. Normally it worked. Tonight it sounded rehearsed. "Why would you move money from savings without telling me?" I asked. "Because you were asleep." He tried smiling after saying it, like the joke might soften the disrespect underneath it. It did not. I opened the banking app fully. Our emergency savings account looked wrong immediately. Lower than it should have been. Much lower. My chest tightened. "Jason," I said slowly, "where did the rest of the money go?" He stopped pacing. "What do you mean? There should be over 90,000 in here." Silence. Real silence this time. No polished answer arrived. Then he moved behind me too casually and placed both hands on my shoulders. "You are exhausted," he said gently. "Do not spiral before I explain everything." Spiral. That word landed badly because Jason only used it when he wanted my emotions to sound less credible than his. I shrugged his hands off and stood. "Do not do that." He blinked once. "Do what?" "Talk to me like I am overreacting instead of answering the question." The kitchen suddenly felt too bright. Too clean. Family photos lined the hallway wall behind him. Disney trips. Graduation pictures. Our daughter Ava holding a science trophy at 14. Every image looked expensive now. Like maybe we could not afford the memories displayed in matching frames. Jason leaned against the counter and crossed his arms, defensive posture finally replacing guilt. I told you there are business problems. Then show me. At 2 in the morning? Yes. He exhaled sharply through his nose. Renee, please. That please was different from apology. It sounded like stalling. I opened our shared folder on the family laptop sitting near the dining room and searched mortgage documents because instinct suddenly pushed me there before logic did. Jason followed immediately. Too quickly. What are you doing? Checking something. You are being dramatic. Another bad word choice. Dramatic. People accidentally reveal priorities during panic. Jason was no longer trying to save our marriage conversation. He was trying to stop my access to information. The folder opened half empty. Several financial files were missing entirely. Mortgage statements. Retirement documents. Tax PDFs gone. My heartbeat kicked hard enough I could feel it in my throat. Why are files deleted? Jason stepped closer. I reorganized the folders. At midnight? Renee. Why are files deleted? He did not answer. Instead, he moved around me and shut the laptop halfway. Not aggressively. Worse. Calmly. Like a parent ending a conversation with a child. You need sleep before you start making connections that are not real. There it was. The first moment I realized Jason planned to manage my reactions instead of tell the truth. I reopened the laptop immediately. Sit down. He stared at me. Excuse me? Sit down and explain where our money went. We stood facing each other across the dining room table while rain hammered the windows and the refrigerator hummed too loudly in the silence between us. Jason finally sat, but he looked irritated now instead of ashamed. The business slowed down this year, he admitted carefully. I borrowed against savings temporarily. How temporarily? A few months. How much? Another pause. Then his phone buzzed on the counter. One name lit up across the screen before he flipped it over. Sophia. He had not even bothered changing the contact name. I laughed once from pure disbelief. You are having an affair and draining our savings at the same time? Jason rubbed his jaw hard enough to redden the skin. It is not connected. That sentence changed everything because I knew instantly it was a lie. Not from evidence yet. From instinct. Jason always separated subjects when the truth connected them. Affair here. Money there. Business stress somewhere else. But panic leaks patterns. And his panic tonight had started with the bank alert, not the hotel receipt. How long? I asked quietly. The affair or the money? He looked away. Wrong answer. Completely wrong answer. My stomach dropped because innocent people do not need clarification between betrayals. Then another notification appeared on my phone. Payment failed, autodraft mortgage transaction declined. For a second, neither of us moved. The entire house went silent except for the storm outside. Jason closed his eyes slowly like a man watching impact happen in real time. Not surprise. Recognition. He already knew. That was the moment I understood something terrifying. I had not discovered a mistake tonight. I had interrupted a collapse already happening behind my back. The mortgage failure notification stayed on my phone like a warning label. Jason reached for it again, slower this time, like gentleness might make control look less obvious. I stepped back and locked the screen. Do not touch my phone. His face hardened for half a second, then softened into concern so quickly it almost looked professional. Renee, we are both tired. You are reacting to several things at once. He was right about that. The affair. The transfer. The missing files. The failed mortgage. 4 separate fires, all burning in the same kitchen. But his mistake was assuming smoke would blind me instead of leading me to the source. I walked to the pantry, pulled out the black binder where I kept paper statements, and set it on the dining room table. Jason's eyes followed it too closely. "Why are you looking at that?" he asked. "Because paper does not disappear when someone reorganizes folders." He tried a short laugh. "You always did love a binder." I opened to the savings section. January balance: 92,000. February: 86. March: 71. The drops were small enough to explain away if you were not looking for a pattern. Then April showed 49. My stomach tightened. "This started months ago." Jason pushed back from the table. "I told you the business slowed down." "Then why did you not tell me in March?" "Because you worry." "Because I worry, or because I would have said no?" He looked away toward the hallway where Ava's school portrait hung in a silver frame. That tiny glance gave me a new fear. I turned the binder pages faster, moving past savings to college accounts. Jason stood immediately. "Renee." Just my name. Sharp enough to stop me. I looked up. "What?" "Ava's account is fine." He said it before I opened the page. Before he could have known what I was checking. My hands went cold. "How do you know that is what I am looking for?" He sat back down slowly. "Too late." I opened the college fund statement from 3 months ago. "Healthy." Then the most recent page. Lower. Not empty, but touched. Money had moved from the one account we promised never to use. I felt something inside me shift from betrayal into survival. The affair hurt like humiliation. This felt like a threat. "You took money from Ava," I said. He leaned forward, voice low. "Borrowed." "Not took." "From our daughter's future?" "For a short-term bridge." His words were polished again, but his fingers tapped the table in a fast, uneven rhythm. Jason always called danger by a business name when he needed it to sound temporary. Bridge. Delay. Restructure. "Did Sophia know?" I asked. He flinched. "Not at her name. At the connection." "This has nothing to do with Sophia." That was exactly what he said before the mortgage notice. Separate the affair from the money. Separate the money from the business. Separate the business from the family. If everything stayed separate, maybe no one could see the shape of the disaster. I opened our credit monitoring app next. Jason exhaled sharply. "Now you are being paranoid." The word landed hard because it was not accidental. He needed my investigation to sound emotional before it became factual. I kept scrolling. There it was. A credit card under both our names, opened 7 months earlier. I had never seen it. Balance, $18,742. I turned the screen toward him. "What is this?" He stared at it and went quiet. "Business expenses." "On a personal card?" I was going to move it once receivables came in. I clicked transactions. Restaurants. Furniture store. Boutique gym vendor. Airline tickets. A jewelry store in Buckhead. My pulse pounded in my ears. The false assumption tried to form neatly: he was spending everything on Sophia. It was ugly, but simple. I almost wanted simple. Then I saw a charge to a lender I did not recognize. Not a store. Not a hotel. A debt servicing company. Monthly payments, recurring, hidden among lifestyle charges like a snake under leaves. Who is Southern Bridge Capital? I asked. Jason stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. Enough. I looked up slowly. That one scares you? He pointed toward the laptop. You are digging through things without context. Then give me context. Not at 3 in the morning. The bank took $38,000 at 2:17. Apparently 3 in the morning is business hours now. For a second, I saw anger break through his provider mask. Real anger. Not because I was wrong. Because I was too close. Then his phone rang again. Sophia. He silenced it, but this time a text preview appeared before the screen went dark. Did the transfer clear? My whole body went still. Jason saw me read it. The room changed. She knows about the money, I said. He shook his head immediately. No. She knows about one vendor payment. A vendor payment from our savings? Renee, listen to me. I stepped away from the table because his voice had become too soft. Jason's softness was not comfort anymore. It was a rope. What did you promise her? His eyes flashed. Do not make her into some villain because you are hurt. Emotional reversal came fast and bitter. He defended Sophia more instinctively than he defended our daughter's college fund. That told me more than the text did. I am asking what you promised her. He pressed his thumb and forefinger to his eyes. She has a studio opportunity. I helped connect her with investors. With our money? With money I intended to replace. I almost laughed. Intended. The favorite word of people already caught by consequences. I pulled up our mortgage account on the laptop. The missed payment showed red. Past due. A $42 late fee already posted like a tiny insult on top of a disaster. Then another line appeared beneath it, autodraft suspended due to insufficient funds. That meant this was not a glitch. It meant the account was actually empty enough for the bank to refuse our house payment. I looked around the dining room, at the chairs we bought after we hosted our first Thanksgiving, at the walls painted the soft gray Jason insisted made the house feel established. The house did not feel established now. It felt exposed. Jason moved toward me again, slower this time. We can fix this. How much is left in the emergency fund? Renee. How much? He swallowed. Around 9,000. January had been 92. 9,000. The number rang through me like metal hitting tile. Where is $83,000? I asked. He did not answer. Not because he did not know. Because the answer had too many pieces. I closed the binder and carried it under my arm. I am going to sleep in the guest room. We are not done talking. You are right. We are not. But I am done listening to explanations without records. His expression tightened. Do not call anyone. I stopped at the hallway entrance. Why? Because people will misunderstand. People, or accountants? Another silence. That was my answer. I walked upstairs with the binder while he stood below me in the dining room, smaller than he had looked an hour earlier and somehow more dangerous because of it. In the guest room, I locked the door, sat on the floor with my back against it, and photographed every statement until dawn bled pale gray through the blinds. At 6:08 a.m., I called our accountant's office before Jason could stop me. The receptionist put me through to voicemail, but before I hung up, an automated reminder played from last week. Your consultation regarding the business debt restructuring has been confirmed. Business debt restructuring. I had never scheduled that. Jason had. Under my name. The automated reminder repeated once before the line disconnected. Business debt restructuring. Under my name. I sat on the guest room floor with the binder open across my knees while morning light turned the carpet gray. For a few seconds, I did nothing. I did not cry. I did not call Jason. I replayed the phrase in my head until it stopped sounding like an accident and started sounding like a signature I never gave. At 6:19 a.m., I called the accountant's office again and asked for the earliest appointment. Mrs. Walker, the receptionist said carefully, Mr. Miller already confirmed for both of you at 9. Both of us. Jason had planned to bring me into a meeting after the damage was done, tired, confused, and probably apologetic for finding out too loudly. I told her I would arrive alone at 8:30. Then I took a shower with the binder sitting on the bathroom counter where I could see it through the steam. Jason knocked twice. Renee, we need to talk before you go anywhere. I wrapped myself in a robe and opened the door only 3 inches. He stood in the hallway wearing the same shirt from last night, eyes red, hair damp from running his hands through it. For one small, stupid second, I remembered the man who used to bring me coffee during hospital budget season and wait outside Ava's school plays with flowers. Then he said, "Do not embarrass us by turning this into a scene." The memory died right there. "I am going to see our accountant." His face tightened. "That is not necessary." "Then you should have no problem with it." He lowered his voice. "You do not understand the structure of my business." "I understand subtraction." I closed the door before he could answer. At 8:12, I backed out of the driveway with Jason standing on the porch holding his phone, pretending not to watch me leave. I drove through Buckhead traffic with every red light feeling too long. My phone buzzed twice from him. I did not open the messages. If I read his words, I would hear his voice. If I heard his voice, some part of me might still try to make room for him. At the accountant's office, glass walls and soft beige chairs made everything look too calm for the sentence I had come to ask. Our accountant, Martin Hale, stepped into the lobby carrying a tablet and froze when he saw only me. "Where is Jason?" he asked. That is what I was hoping not to need him for. His expression changed. Not surprise exactly. Concern catching up to information he already had. He led me into a conference room and closed the door gently. I placed the binder on the table. "How much debt are we in?" Martin did not answer immediately. He sat across from me, opened his tablet, and asked, "Renee, did Jason tell you about Southern Bridge Capital?" My throat tightened. No, Martin's eyes dropped. "Then we need to slow down." Slowing down was impossible. My entire life was accelerating without my consent. He pulled up a document labeled short-term commercial financing. Jason had taken a business loan 11 months ago. The first false lead cracked right there. I thought the affair caused the money problem. The date said otherwise. The debt came first. Sophia came later. Or at least later on paper. Martin showed me payment schedules, late fees, rolling penalties. Jason had not been hiding one emergency. He had been stacking emergencies like furniture against a door. Why was my name attached to the restructuring appointment? I asked. Martin swallowed. Because Jason said you were aware and wanted to personally review household exposure. Household exposure, I repeated. The phrase felt poisonous. Did he use those words? Yes. Of course he did. Jason loved terms that made betrayal sound like strategy. I asked Martin to print everything. While the machine hummed behind us, my phone lit up on the table. Jason, please do not let Martin confuse you. He has always been overly conservative. A minute later, another message arrived. Sophia is not involved. Do not punish an innocent person because you were angry at me. I stared at that one longer. Not because I believed Sophia was innocent. Because Jason had just shown me where the nerve was. I asked Martin, "Do you recognize the name Sofia Vega?" He hesitated. That hesitation did not belong in a marriage. There are payments connected to Vega Wellness Group. He turned the tablet around. Vendor deposits. Equipment leasing. Branding consultant. Lease application fee. All through an LLC I had never heard of, JRM Development Solutions. Jason's initials hidden inside a business name like a cheap disguise. My hands went cold again. How much? Martin added silently, then turned the tablet back. Approximately $46,000 over 5 months. I had expected to feel rage. Instead I felt a strange, clean humiliation. I had been clipping grocery coupons during January because egg prices annoyed me, while my husband quietly financed another woman's dream studio with money from our emergency fund. Then Martin clicked another tab and went still. What? I asked. He adjusted his glasses. This includes a personal guarantee. By Jason? By both of you. The room narrowed around the table. I did not sign anything. Martin turned the screen toward me. There was my name. Renee Walker Miller. My digital initials beside Jason's. The signature looked close enough to insult me. Close enough that a careless person might accept it. But Jason had made one mistake. He used Renee W. Miller. I had never signed that way professionally or legally. I kept Walker in every financial document because my father taught me never to disappear inside a marriage on paper. That is not my signature, I said. My voice sounded far away. Martin stared at it again, this time as an accountant instead of a family friend. Then you need an attorney before you speak to Jason again. I was gathering the printouts when the office door opened. Jason walked in without knocking. Martin stood immediately. Jason, this is a private meeting. Jason smiled like he had expected that line. It is my marriage and my business. He looked at me, then at the stack of papers in my hands. His expression sharpened. You are making this worse. I slid the documents into my purse. Worse than forged initials? His face changed. Tiny. Fast. But Martin saw it too. Jason recovered with a tired sigh. Renee, you approved this in December. You were stressed. You forget conversations when you are overwhelmed. My skin went cold at the familiarity of the tactic. Not a denial. A revision. He had moved from hiding money to editing my memory. Say that again in front of Martin, I said. Jason looked at him, then back at me. I am saying we discussed it. No, I said. You were saying I forgot consenting to debt. Martin stepped between us slightly, not dramatically, just enough to shift the room. Jason, I need to advise both of you to pause any further financial movement. Jason's jaw flexed. You work for us. And I am telling you the exposure is serious. Exposure. There was that word again. But now it sounded like daylight. Jason turned to me, voice softening. Come home. We can handle this privately. For half a second, I almost saw the man I married. Then his phone buzzed in his hand. Sophia's name appeared again. He tried to angle it away, but the preview showed enough. The landlord says the studio lease cannot wait. Did Renee sign? Martin saw it. I saw it. Jason saw us see it. That was the second the affair became evidence. Not romance. Not weakness. Evidence. I stood slowly. You were waiting for me to sign? Jason said nothing. Or you were waiting to use my signature again? His silence answered. I left the office before he could follow, but in the hallway my knees almost gave out. Martin caught up with me near the elevator and handed me one final page. I printed this separately, he said quietly. It came in yesterday. It was a withdrawal notice from Ava's college fund. Not a transfer. Not a mistake. A liquidation request scheduled for Friday. 3 days away. Authorized by Jason. Pending secondary approval from me. Suddenly every part of his behavior made sense. The confession. The softness. The pressure to come home. He did not need forgiveness first. He needed my password. I drove out of Martin's parking deck with the college fund notice folded inside my purse like something radioactive. 3 days. Jason had 3 days before he could empty the account we opened when Ava was born. That made every soft word from him dangerous in a new way. He had not wanted me calm because he loved me. He needed me cooperative because my approval was still the last locked door. At the first red light, I turned off location sharing on my phone. Then I turned it back on for one person only, my sister Denise. If Jason asked where I was, I wanted the answer to come from someone who would not protect his feelings. Instead of going home, I drove to the Chase branch near Lenox Square where we opened the emergency account years ago. The lobby smelled like coffee and printer paper. A young banker smiled until I placed my driver's license, the binder, and the college fund notice on her desk. I need to freeze every joint account that requires my authorization, I said. Her smile faded into professional seriousness. Within 20 minutes, she confirmed 3 things. The $38,000 transfer had gone to JRM Development Solutions. The emergency fund had multiple recent outgoing wires. And someone had attempted to update my security phone number 2 weeks earlier. Not completed. Attempted. My stomach turned. Jason had not just been moving money. He had been preparing to move around me. The banker asked if I wanted to file an internal fraud review. I said yes before fear could make me polite. Then I did something small but deliberate. I changed every password from the branch computer while a bank employee watched. Jason texted 5 times during that process. I read only the previews. We need to talk like adults. Then, Martin is making this sound worse. Then, do not freeze anything, you will hurt Ava. That one almost worked. Almost. But if freezing accounts hurt Ava, draining them would have destroyed her. Cause and effect had become my anchor. I left the bank with temporary holds placed on the savings account, the college account, and the credit card. My hands shook only after I reached the car. I sat there breathing through it when another text arrived. Not from Jason. From Sophia. Is this Renee? Please do not make me the villain. I stared at the screen for a long time. My first instinct was ugly and human. Of course she would say that. Of course she would want mercy after taking my money and my husband's time. But then I remembered her text, did Renee sign? That did not sound like a woman hiding an affair. It sounded like a woman waiting on paperwork she believed was legitimate. I typed one sentence back, what did Jason tell you I was signing? She did not answer for 8 minutes. Then, an investment release for his separate business funds. He said you were already separated financially. Separated financially. I laughed once, alone in the car, because Jason had invented a divorce without ever giving me the courtesy of one. I asked where she was. She sent an address for a boutique fitness studio under renovation in West Midtown. I knew meeting her was risky. I also knew not meeting her would leave Jason's story alive in a room I had not entered. So I drove there with the bank folder on the passenger seat and Martin's number ready on speed dial. The studio was in a renovated brick building with black-framed windows and fresh white paint inside. Sophia Vega stood near a stack of unopened yoga mats, wearing leggings, a cropped sweatshirt, and the face of a woman realizing the floor under her dream might be borrowed. She was younger than me, yes. Beautiful, yes. But she did not look triumphant. She looked cornered. We stood 10 feet apart at first, with construction dust between us like a line neither of us wanted to cross. He said you knew, she whispered. He said your marriage was legally over except for paperwork. I held up my left hand. Wedding ring still there. He slept in our house last night. Her face went pale. That was the emotional reversal I did not expect. I had come prepared to hate her. Instead, I watched her lose the same lie from a different angle. Sophia walked to a folding table and opened a laptop. He told me JRM was his consulting company, she said. He said the money came from a business payout. She showed me invoices, lease drafts, design estimates. Jason had signed half of them as managing partner. He had promised her ownership percentages, launch capital, and introductions to investors. The false assumption cracked again. Yes, he had spent money on Sophia. But he had also used her dream as a container for his collapsing business debt. If the studio succeeded, he had a fresh revenue story. If it failed, he could blame her. I asked, did he ever ask you to speak to me? Sophia shook her head. He said you were bitter and unpredictable. There it was. Different woman, same protective wall. Make the wife unreasonable before she arrives. I took out the college fund liquidation notice and placed it on the folding table. He is trying to use my daughter's money by Friday. Sophia covered her mouth. No, did he mention a Friday deadline? Her eyes filled. The landlord wants final funds Friday. The room went cold despite the space heaters humming near the mirrors. Jason's timeline clicked into place with brutal precision. Confess just enough affair to keep me emotionally overwhelmed. Rush me home. Push private reconciliation. Get my password. Approve Ava's fund withdrawal. Save Sophia's lease. Delay business collapse. Every cruelty had a calendar. Sophia backed away from the table and sat on a paint bucket. I thought he was investing in me. He was, I said quietly. With money he had no right to use. She looked at me then, tears running silently, and I hated that pity rose in me. Not forgiveness. Not friendship. Just recognition. Jason had made both of us feel chosen, so we would stop asking chosen for what. My phone rang. Jason. Sophia's rang 1 second later. Jason. We looked at each other as both screens lit up. He had probably figured out we were together through silence alone. Sophia answered first and put it on speaker without greeting. Jason's voice came through tight and controlled. Sophia, do not say anything to Renee. She is trying to sabotage the studio because she cannot handle what happened between us. I answered my phone too and placed it beside hers on the table. His own voice echoed from both devices. Renee, he said on my line, softer now, where are you? We need to protect Ava from this mess. Hearing the two versions at once changed the air. To Sophia, I was sabotage. To me, he was fatherly concern. Same minute. Same man. Two scripts. I spoke first. Jason, the accounts are frozen. Silence on both phones. Then his voice dropped. You did what? No concern. No apology. Just exposed panic. Sophia closed her eyes. I said, you will not touch Ava's money. Jason stopped pretending completely. You have no idea what you just did. I think I finally do. He hung up on both of us. The studio became very quiet. Then Sophia turned her laptop toward me again. There is one more thing, she said. She opened a folder labeled Launch Documents. Inside was a scanned copy of an authorization form with my name typed under investor spouse consent. Not signed yet. Blank signature line. Waiting. I stared at the empty line where Jason had expected my cooperation, my exhaustion, or my stolen password to appear. For the first time all day, I did not feel behind him. I felt one step ahead. Then my phone buzzed from Denise. Jason just pulled into your driveway. He is carrying a box from the garage. I left Sophia's studio so fast the glass door rattled behind me. Denise's text stayed open on my dashboard while I drove through West Midtown traffic with my pulse hammering in my ears. Jason just pulled into your driveway. He is carrying a box from the garage. A box. Not a suitcase. Not clothes. A box from the garage meant records, tools, old files, something he did not want me to see before I got home. Sophia called after me once, but I did not stop. The last thing she said echoed anyway. He has launched documents waiting for your signature. Signature. Password. Approval. Box. Every piece pointed to the same conclusion now. Jason was not reacting to being caught. He was cleaning up before I could prove how long he had been planning this. I called Denise on speaker. Stay across the street, I said. Do not go inside. I am not going inside, she said quickly. But Renee, he is not taking things out. He is putting the box into his truck. My hands tightened on the wheel. What kind of box? Blue plastic storage bin. The one from your garage shelves, I think. I pictured the garage instantly. Holiday decorations on the left. Ava's old school projects in labeled tubs. Tax records in clear bins. My father's estate papers in one blue container because I never wanted them mixed with Jason's business documents. My father's estate papers. Cold spread through me so fast I missed the next green light. A driver honked behind me. I moved forward on instinct. Emotional contrast hit hard and sharp. My father, who worked 36 years for the county, who taught me to keep my name on everything I earned, who left me a modest inheritance and made me promise never to sign financial documents when I was scared. Jason was carrying that man's papers into a truck while claiming he was protecting our daughter. I called him. He did not answer. I called again. Voicemail. Then a text arrived from him: "I am removing sensitive documents before you do something impulsive with them." I laughed once, bitter and breathless. Sensitive documents. Not stolen. Not hidden. Sensitive. Jason had a talent for choosing words that polished theft until it looked responsible. Denise came back on the line. "He is leaving." "Follow him," I said. From far back. "Do not let him see you." "Renee, I am in bedroom slippers." Denise. "Fine. I am following him in bedroom slippers." If I had not been terrified, I might have laughed. That one human detail kept me from falling apart completely. My older sister, furious and underdressed, trailing my husband through Atlanta because he was running from paper. At the next light, I pulled over and opened the camera app on my phone. I recorded myself stating the time, the bank freezes, Sophia's studio address, the missing blue bin, and Jason's refusal to answer. It felt absurd. It felt necessary. Evidence had become oxygen. Denise updated me every few minutes. "He is heading toward his office." Then, "No, wait, he passed the exit." Then, "He is going south." South meant his construction storage yard near College Park. My stomach tightened. That yard had dumpsters. Burn barrels for scrap wood. Locked containers. I had been there twice in 12 years and hated it both times because everything smelled like dust, diesel, and things people did not want inside a house. I called Martin. He answered on the second ring. "Renee?" Jason took my father's estate papers from the garage. Silence. Then Martin's voice lowered. "Do you have copies?" "Some. Not all." "What was in the bin?" "Trust documents. Original property records. Old bank paperwork. Maybe tax returns." "Do not confront him alone." "I am already driving." "Then do not get out of the car until someone else is there." Too late, I thought, but did not say it. When I pulled into the gravel lot outside the storage yard, Denise's SUV sat crooked near the fence. She stood beside it in a trench coat over pajamas and pink slippers, holding her phone like a weapon. The absurdity of her outfit nearly undid me again. She pointed toward the back. "He went into Unit C." I parked beside her and reached under my seat for the small envelope Sophia had given me before I left. I had forgotten she slipped it into my hand in the rush. Inside were copies of Jason's investor pitch materials. I opened them under the dome light. The first page showed JRM Development Solutions as the funding vehicle. The second listed projected assets available for collateral. My breath stopped at the third line: Walker Family Trust Reserve. Not marital savings. Not business receivables. My family trust. That was the twist that changed everything. The affair was not a distraction from financial collapse anymore. Sophia's studio was not even the main prize. Jason had been using the chaos around our marriage to reach assets that were never his. My father's money. My father's papers. My name. My daughter's future. I stepped out of the car before Denise could stop me. "Renee," she hissed. Martin said, "Not alone." "Then come with me." We crossed the gravel lot together, Denise's slippers crunching loudly in the dark. Unit C's metal door was half open. Light spilled through the gap. I heard paper moving. Not shredding. Sorting. I pushed the door up with both hands. Jason stood at a folding table under fluorescent lights, my blue bin open beside him. Papers were stacked in neat piles. Estate. Tax. Trust. Loan. He looked up, and for once, there was no fake concern ready. Just anger. You should not be here, he said. I stepped inside, Denise close behind me. Those are mine. These affect our household. My father's trust does not affect your business. His eyes narrowed. After 12 years of marriage, you still think in terms of yours and mine? That almost worked because it sounded like wounded intimacy. Then I looked at the table and saw a photocopy of my father's death certificate beside a draft collateral schedule. Emotional reversal came fast. The man who once held my hand at my father's funeral was now using his death paperwork to chase money. My knees weakened, but Denise moved beside me, shoulder touching mine. Jason noticed. This is family business, he said to her. Denise laughed coldly. Then why did you drag our dead father into your LLC? Jason's face flushed. You have no idea what I am trying to prevent. Bankruptcy? I asked. He went still. There it was. The word neither of us had said yet. Not business slowdown. Not restructuring. Bankruptcy. His silence answered before his mouth did. Denise whispered, "Oh my God." Jason finally dropped the papers onto the table. I was trying to save everything. By forging my initials? By keeping us afloat? By using Ava's college fund? Temporarily. By promising Sophia money that was not yours? His jaw clenched. Sophia was leverage. The room went silent. Even Denise stopped breathing for a second. Sophia was leverage. Not love. Not escape. Not weakness. Leverage. Jason looked like he regretted saying it, but not enough. The words had already opened the next door. Leverage for what? I asked. He looked away. Then I saw the file at his elbow. Home equity application. Our house. Our actual home. I reached for it. He grabbed it first, but Denise snatched another copy from the stack and stepped back. I read over her shoulder. The application named me as consenting spouse. Supporting documents included trust reserves, household income, projected business recovery, and pending investor funds. Sophia's studio was not just a place he funded. It was part of a fake recovery story for the lender. If the studio lease went through, if Ava's account released funds, if my trust appeared as backup collateral, Jason could refinance the house and bury the collapse under new debt. Everything connected. Every lie had been load-bearing. I looked at him across the folding table, and for the first time all night, I doubted my own understanding, not because I was wrong, but because the truth was larger than I had allowed myself to imagine. Were you ever going to tell me? I asked. His face softened then. Truly softened. After I fixed it. That answer almost broke me because I believed he believed it. In Jason's mind, betrayal was temporary if success came before discovery. He could steal trust, move money, use signatures, borrow futures, and if the final spreadsheet looked balanced, he would call it protection. I took my father's papers from the table and handed them to Denise. Put these in your car. Jason stepped forward. Do not remove documents from my business property. Denise stared at him. They are our father's documents. He reached toward the bin, and I moved between him and the table before thinking. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just done. No more. He looked down at me like he barely recognized my voice. Renee, you are destroying us. No, I said, holding his gaze while Denise carried the first stack outside. I am finally separating what you destroyed from what you still want to take. His phone buzzed on the table. Sophia. The preview flashed, the landlord called. Your funding proof was rejected. Did Renee freeze everything? Jason closed his eyes. That was the soundless collapse. Not the affair. Not even the confrontation. The money had stopped moving. And for Jason, that meant the truth was about to. Jason's phone kept buzzing on the folding table. Sophia. Sophia again. Then Martin. Then an unknown number with an Atlanta area code. For once, Jason did not answer any of them. He stared at the rejected funding text like the screen had betrayed him personally. Denise came back into Unit C carrying the empty half of the blue bin, pink slippers gray with gravel dust. The trust papers are in my car, she said. Jason looked at her like she had stolen from him. Those documents are part of a financing review. Those documents belong to my sister. They belong to the household. I stepped closer to the folding table. No, Jason. That is the lie everything else depends on. The fluorescent light above us hummed loudly. It made the storage unit feel colder than it was. Around us were stacked boxes, rolled blueprints, tool cases, and neatly labeled folders that suddenly looked less like business records and more like hiding places. Jason braced both hands on the table and lowered his head. For one quiet second, he looked exhausted instead of dangerous. That almost reached me. Almost. Then he whispered, "You do not know what it feels like to have everyone depending on you." The old version of me would have softened there. The wife. The mother. The woman who paid bills early, packed lunches, and told him he was carrying too much. But the new version of me looked at my father's death certificate beside a home equity application and heard only the insult inside his pain. Everyone was depending on you, I said. And you used that trust like a credit line. His face twisted. I was trying to save the house. By risking it without telling me? By keeping lenders calm until receivables came in. Receivables that did not exist? Denise asked. Jason turned on her. Stay out of this. Denise moved beside me instead of back. Not when you are trying to drag our father's name into your bankruptcy. The word hit him harder this time because it came from someone else. His shoulders dropped. Then, finally, the truth began leaking out. Not as confession. As defense. The first loan was temporary, he said. One bad quarter. One project delayed. Then penalties hit. Then the supplier filed a claim. Then the bank tightened terms. I needed liquidity. Liquidity. I almost laughed. There he was, standing in a storage unit after midnight, surrounded by my family papers, still trying to make panic sound like accounting. And Sophia? I asked. His eyes flicked toward the phone. Sophia had a legitimate business concept. That you used as proof of recovery. He did not deny it. That silence was another signature. Denise picked up the home equity application from the stack and read aloud, projected wellness studio revenue, investor spouse consent, Walker Family Trust Reserve. Her voice shook by the end. You were going to use Renee's inheritance as backup for your failed business. Jason slapped his palm flat on the table. Not violent. Not wild. Just sharp enough to make the papers jump. I had a plan. I looked down at the scattered pages. No. You had a maze. And you put all of us inside it. Then the unknown number called again. This time Jason answered, maybe because he needed a different room to control. This is Jason. His face changed before the person on the line finished speaking. I watched his confidence drain in real time. No, I can still provide updated documentation by Friday, he said, turning away from us. The freeze is temporary. My wife panicked. My wife panicked. Denise's eyes widened. I stepped forward and reached for the phone, but he moved back. I did not chase him. Instead, I opened my own phone and called Martin on speaker. He answered immediately. Renee? I am with Jason at his storage yard. He is on the phone with a lender telling them I panicked. Martin's voice sharpened. Jason, if you can hear me, any representation that Renee consented after she has disputed authorization would be a serious problem. Jason froze. The lender heard it too. He lowered his phone slowly. You put him on speaker? You put my name on debt. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Sophia's car pulled into the gravel lot outside, headlights cutting through the half-open unit door. I had not expected her. Jason had not either. She stepped out in a long coat over gym clothes, holding a folder to her chest. Her face looked pale, determined, and ruined all at once. You told me Renee signed, she said from the doorway. Jason's expression hardened. Sophia, leave. She did not. That was the unexpected turn. The woman I thought was the distraction walked straight into the center of the financial truth. She opened her folder and pulled out copies of emails. You told the landlord the funds were already cleared. You told me the lease was safe. You told me your wife was only delaying things because she hated me. I looked at Jason. You used both of us to pressure each other. He said nothing. Sophia turned to me, her voice shaking. I am sorry. I believed him because he made you sound cruel. Emotional contrast hit hard. We were standing in a storage unit surrounded by debt records, and the woman from the affair was apologizing while my husband remained silent. Jason had created enemies so no one would compare notes. Now the enemies were holding folders. Sophia placed one page on the table. This is the email he sent my landlord yesterday. I read it with Denise leaning over my shoulder. Attached proof of household reserves and spouse-backed collateral. Full funding expected pending final authorization. My name. My father's trust. Ava's college fund. All presented as if Jason had the right to spend our entire future because he could speak confidently in email form. I felt something crack open, not loudly, but completely. How much total? I asked. Jason looked away. Renee. How much? Martin, still on speaker, said quietly, based on what you sent me and what Sophia is showing, the exposure could be over 200,000 if the refinance and guarantees went through. Denise cursed under her breath. Sophia sat down on a crate like her legs had stopped working. 200,000. The number did not feel real at first. Then it became too real. It became Ava's tuition, my father's trust, the house equity, the emergency fund, the credit card, the loan, the studio, the hotel, every missing file and every soft lie. Jason rubbed his face with both hands. I was going to make it back. That was his emotional breakdown. Not tears. Not apology. Just that sentence, raw and desperate and still centered on his intention instead of the damage. I was going to make it back before anyone had to know. I stared at him across the folding table. Before anyone had to know they were being robbed? His head snapped up. Do not use that word. What word would you prefer? My voice finally cracked. Borrowed? Restructured? Protected? Saved? The unit went silent. Even Martin stayed quiet. I pointed to the papers. You took from savings. You took from our daughter. You tried to take from my father. You put my name on debt. You used Sophia's studio as a false recovery story. You tried to refinance our house. And when I started asking questions, you called me dramatic. Jason's eyes were wet now, but I did not trust them. I had trusted too many versions of his pain already. I did not want you to see me fail, he said. That was the first honest thing he had said all night. And it broke my heart in a quieter way than the affair ever could. Because there was my husband, finally. Not the provider. Not the liar. Not the man defending Sophia or blaming me. Just a terrified man who could not survive being seen as unsuccessful. But honesty that arrives after damage does not undo damage. I would have survived your failure, I said. I might have even helped you through it. What I cannot survive is being turned into collateral without my consent. Denise's hand found mine. Sophia wiped her face with the sleeve of her coat. Jason looked at all three of us and realized, maybe for the first time, that every woman he had counted on keeping separate was now standing in the same room. Martin spoke through the phone. Renee, document the contents of the unit. Do not remove business records, but photograph anything with your name, Ava's name, or the trust. Then leave. Jason laughed bitterly. So that is it? Everyone just abandons me? I picked up my father's death certificate from the edge of the table and held it against my chest. No, Jason. This is what happens when people stop financing your lies. Outside, headlights swept across the gravel. A second car pulled in. Then another. Martin had called his attorney contact, and Denise had texted her husband. People were arriving now. Witnesses. Support. Reality. Jason looked toward the open door, and I saw the last of his control leave his face. The money had stopped moving. The story had stopped working. And for the first time, there was nothing left between him and the consequences but paper. The storage yard emptied slowly after midnight. Martin's attorney photographed the documents while Denise carried the last of my father's papers into her SUV like she was rescuing family members from a fire. Sophia sat quietly on a folding chair near the entrance, staring at the investor packets spread across the table as if they belonged to someone else's life now. Jason stopped arguing once other people arrived. That was the strange part. He did not explode. He shrank. The more witnesses entered the room, the smaller his explanations became. By 1:30 a.m., he was leaning against a stack of drywall boxes with both hands in his pockets, watching strangers inventory the consequences he spent a year trying to outrun. I thought I would feel victorious. I did not. I felt tired in my bones. The attorney recommended immediate separation of financial access and temporary legal protection on the house and trust assets. Hearing my marriage reduced to action steps and signature requirements should have devastated me. Instead, it grounded me. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, reality finally sounded clearer than Jason's voice. Denise drove behind me all the way home because she refused to let me be alone. When I pulled into the driveway at almost 3 a.m, the house looked painfully normal. Porch light glowing. Wind chime moving softly near the garage. Ava's old basketball hoop still leaning slightly to the left because Jason always said he would fix it next weekend. I sat in the car for a full minute before going inside. The kitchen still smelled faintly like coffee from yesterday morning, back when I thought discovering a hotel receipt was the crisis. I placed the binder on the counter and suddenly noticed something small but crushing. Jason's coffee mug was still in the sink beside mine. 1 cup with lipstick on the rim. 1 cup with dried coffee at the bottom. 12 years looked embarrassingly ordinary at the end. Denise hugged me before leaving and whispered, "Do not clean tonight." Exhaustion makes people erase evidence and feelings at the same time. She was right. So I left everything exactly where it was and slept for 3 hours on top of the comforter with the bedroom lamp still on. At 7:42 a.m., I woke to 31 missed notifications. Messages from Jason. Emails from the bank. A voicemail from Ava asking why Dad sounded weird on the phone. That one hurt worst of all because our daughter was away at a college tour in North Carolina believing her parents were stable enough to miss each other politely. I called her immediately before Jason could shape the story first. "Mom," she answered sleepily. "Why are you awake so early?" I looked around the bedroom at framed family photos and half-folded laundry and tried to choose honesty without destroying her morning. "Your father and I are dealing with some financial problems," I said carefully. Silence. Then, "How bad?" I closed my eyes. "Bad enough that I need you to trust me for a while." Ava exhaled softly. "Did he cheat again?" The word again hit like cold water. "Again?" I asked. Another silence. Longer this time. I saw messages 2 years ago, she admitted quietly. I thought you knew. My stomach dropped. Another layer. Another hidden room inside the marriage I thought I understood. Why did you not tell me? Because he cried, she whispered. He said he messed up once and was trying to become better before you found out. I sat down slowly on the edge of the bed because suddenly Jason's entire emotional system made horrifying sense. He did not just manage women through guilt and hope. He managed everyone through future promises. Better soon. Temporary. Almost fixed. Just hold on a little longer while I become the version of myself I already pretended to be. After the call, I walked downstairs and opened the freezer because I needed physical cold to interrupt my thoughts. Inside was a foil-wrapped slice of carrot cake from my birthday 6 months earlier. Jason bought it from the expensive bakery I liked after forgetting dinner reservations. At the time, I told myself the cake meant effort. Now I understood it differently. Jason compensated emotionally whenever reality threatened exposure. Gifts after neglect. Affection after distance. Plans after lies. Promises after panic. Around noon, Sophia called. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. She sounded exhausted. I terminated the studio lease this morning, she said. The landlord threatened legal action when the funding froze. I leaned against the kitchen counter where all this started less than 48 hours earlier. I am sorry. And I meant it. Not because she was innocent. But because none of us walked away untouched from Jason's fear of failure. Sophia laughed softly without humor. You know the worst part? She asked. I still do not think he meant to destroy anybody. That sentence stayed with me after we hung up because it was true. Jason was not driven by cruelty. He was driven by terror. Terror of looking unsuccessful. Unwanted. Small. And instead of admitting fear early when it was survivable, he built layer after layer of performance until the entire structure collapsed under its own weight. By Friday afternoon, the attorney helped me freeze the refinance process, dispute the forged signatures, and formally separate my trust from marital exposure. Martin sent updated debt summaries that made me physically nauseous. The total was even higher than we thought because Jason had been juggling short-term lenders against each other. But there was one strange mercy inside the disaster. Because I caught the final authorization before Friday, the college fund transfer never completed. Ava's future survived by less than 72 hours. Jason came by the house Sunday evening while I was sorting financial files at the dining table. He looked older already. Same charcoal jacket. Same careful posture. Different eyes. He stood near the doorway holding a grocery bag from Publix like maybe normal husband behavior could still enter the room before consequences finished unpacking. I brought food, he said quietly. I almost smiled at the irony. Jason always arrived carrying something after damage. Flowers. Cake. Plans. Groceries. He mistook gestures for repair because gestures worked faster than accountability. You cannot come in, I said. He nodded once like he expected that. Then he placed the grocery bag on the porch and stayed there, hands empty now. I never wanted to hurt you. I believed him. That was the tragedy. You just kept choosing your fear over my safety, I answered. His face crumpled slightly. I thought I could fix it before it touched you. Jason, I said softly, it was already touching me every time you lied. We stood there in the fading Georgia evening with the porch light beginning to glow between us. 12 years of marriage reduced to distance measured in doorframes and paperwork. Finally he asked, do you hate me? I thought about the affair. The money. Ava. My father's trust. The forged initials. Sophia's studio. The refinance application. All the separate betrayals tied together by one terrified man trying to outrun shame using other people's futures. No, I said honestly. I think you hated failing so much that you stopped noticing who you were willing to sacrifice to avoid it. He looked down at the grocery bag by his feet and nodded slowly because somewhere inside him, he knew it was true. After he left, I carried the groceries inside anyway. Milk. Eggs. Bread. Coffee. Ordinary things. I stood in the kitchen putting them away while evening light faded across the counters, and suddenly I understood the cruelest part of the whole story. The affair was dramatic. The money was terrifying. But the deepest betrayal was realizing I had spent years managing stability while Jason spent years performing it. At sunrise Monday morning, I sat alone at the dining table with spreadsheets, legal folders, and a fresh notebook labeled recovery budget written across the front in black marker. The house was quiet. My phone was silent. For the first time in a long time, no one was asking me to believe a future built on promises instead of numbers. I looked out the window as morning light spread slowly across the backyard and finally let myself breathe like the collapse was over. Then I opened the notebook and started rebuilding from what was actually left.